dedicating this for Shleim and Tzipra Bas Leah. Okay.
Okay. This afternoon's shir is on the topic of stuck for Shabbos, stuck on Erev Shabbos. Traveling, especially summer season, is a time people travel. And the emphasis, though, this sugya relates to all four seasons. The challenge in the winter, of course, is the weather's bad and people get stuck. What do you do when you get stuck Erev Shabbos? What do you need to do Erev Shabbos? What do you need to do on Shabbos? It's again the summer, especially now. As everybody knows, a lot of flights are canceled, unfortunately. So a person can get stuck somewhere in an airport, in a small town. We're going to go through the HALACHOS that relate. This is really an interesting sugya here, because unlike some other sugyas which are very limited to one malacha, let's say you have a shir on a bayrer, so you're going to talk about the prat of a bayrer. Here, this year, we're going to talk about various different inyanim, different issues that come up. For example, of course, driving is a malacha deraisa. So when are you allowed to drive on Shabbos? Is it ever mutter? What's pikuach nefesh? When is it pikuach nefesh? What constitutes pikuach nefesh? You have issues of haitzah. You need to carry something from point A to point B because you're stuck on the road. We have pikuach nefesh inyanim. We have amir la'akum inyanim. When is it mutter? When you could ask a guy? When do you have to hint to a guy? How do you hint to a guy? If something goes wrong, when is it mutter? Is amir la'akum mutter under certain circumstances? We have issues of tchum Shabbos. If a person's stuck somewhere, they have the ability to get from point A to point B. They could walk from point A to point B. What do they do if out of the tchum? What if you came into the tchum illegally? What are your gedarim on Shabbos? So as you came into town, a plane lands on Shabbos, you didn't plan on it landing, or a train arrived at your destination, and you were outside the tchum, you couldn't get off the train, and your train arrives in Penn Station or wherever it might be on Shabbos. What are your gedarim regarding tchum Shabbos, and also Suda Shabbos? What happens if you end up Friday night somewhere, you have no Suda, you have no food, and then somehow there was food either brought to you or you ended up by some sort of civilization on Shabbos morning? What are the dinim of Suda and the Gabik Tefillah if you miss out on various tefillahs on Shabbos? We've got a lot of different moving parts here. The sugya we're going to try to cover as much as possible. We can make this year into stories. All of you either have yourselves have been in a situation or know of people who have been stuck for Shabbos, surprise storms. Also, not only, what's interesting about the sugya is very often most problems come surprise, meaning if they're forecasting a blizzard on Friday, I would venture to guess that most people are not going to venture out and you're not going to have a problem. People are going to stay where they are and you're not going to have a problem. The problem comes when you have a surprise storm on Friday afternoon, or a balabas once had a situation where there was a storm in the middle of the week and he went to work outside the Tchum of Baltimore, between here and Washington, and he gave himself time Erev Shabbos to get home like a normal Erev Shabbos in the winter. This was in February. What he forgot was that after a storm, the roads are choked because, for example, there are no left turning lanes. There's still snow piled up in the left turning lane. So traffic backs up. Normally a road with 2 lanes or 4 lanes, 2 lanes on each side, is down to 1 lane on each side. So it takes 10 cycles to get through the light, whereas normally it would take 2 cycles. So a trip that normally takes a half hour, 40 minutes to get home, turns into a 2-hour trip. So if he left his office an hour and a half before Shabbos, he was stuck, trying to make a left turn and realizing that he's not going to be able to make it home for Shabbos. There was a Maisa in Baltimore, Shushan Purim 4 years ago. It was a Friday, and it was a geferlich, a storm, 70-mile-an-hour winds. This the worst circumstance of possible, because you had many people traveling on Friday. The people had gone to New York or Lakewood for Purim. There were no conditions to drive home Thursday night, besides the fact there was a big rainstorm Thursday night, so people waited till Friday. If you left early Friday morning, you davened early, 7 o'clock in the morning, and you got on the road, you made it with no problem. But Friday morning, Shushan Purim is not so easy to daven 7. People left at normal times, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, to make it for Shabbos in Baltimore at 5 o'clock. Plenty of time, 6 hours. However, the main highway was closed. The main 95 over the Susquehanna River, that road was shut down. The Eitz is to go to Route 40, which is a 4-lane road with lights. There are trees down on that road. So that road was blocked. People went to Route 1, which is a 2-lane road over way further north. The roads to get there were impossible. And eventually it was that road was closed. There was another smaller highway. Basically 4 bridges over the Susquehanna were shut down and people were mamish stuck. And 40 people ended up in a Days Inn in Perryville, Maryland, which is on the Susquehanna River. And that had its own bag of shilas. And it was a gefährlich situation. There was Chassan Kala that ended up in a tavern as Shabbos began. They were trying to make it to Shabbos Brachas in Baltimore. So again, all these shilas come up, and there again, we could go on further with various stories that we have, but we'll reference some of these stories because again, they happen on the GW Bridge, they happen going into Washington Heights, they happen in New Jersey, Kahena v'Chahena, wherever you might be. So let's talk about some of these halachas. The first ikar halacha, and it's no chiddush, is you have to give yourself enough time before Shabbos to get to where you're going. You don't want to risk it. You don't want to leave if you're going on a 4-hour journey. You're going to leave, 4 hours and 10 minutes. Correct. There are halachas about traveling. The meaning, though, now is people do travel on Friday because the modes of transportation are so much better and so good that it's not a problem to get in the car to go and to get from point A to point B. So again, that was with the halacha where it speaks about not traveling was where there were much greater risks involved. But Derech HaTeva, it's 4 hours from Baltimore to Brooklyn, 3.5 hours for some. You give yourself enough time, and Derech HaTeva you'll be fine. However, you have to oiske cheshbon. The general rule, this is not halacha l'maisa. General rule is you want to give yourself, if you're driving, double the amount of time it takes. So if you're going from let's say again, I use Baltimore because that's where I am. Baltimore to Brooklyn is roughly 4 hours. So you want to give yourself 7 or 8 hours, 3.5. Some people make it 3.5 hours. So you want at least 7 hours between here and Brooklyn. That way, if something goes wrong, you have an hour delay, you have a 2-hour delay, then you're not going to have a problem. In particular, on a holiday weekend, things are going to be much more backed up. So, b'derech klal, you want to give yourself enough time for something that potentially is going to go wrong. Flights, if you're flying on Erev Shabbos, again, ideally you fly on Thursday. You don't want to take the last flight out. Not a good idea, because if something goes wrong, or if you're delayed, you're going to be in a very, very difficult situation. And here, you're in a situation almost worse than in a car, because typically in a car, you'll be able to bail out at some point. On a plane, you're really at their mercy, and you are on a plane, and now the plane's going to take off and land on Shabbos, and you're basically going to be stuck at the airport over Shabbos. So again, if you're flying Erev Shabbos, give yourself enough time. And if the flight is delayed, you bail out at the departing airport because you want to make sure that you don't have a problem. And therefore, you don't want to put yourself in an isayin where you're going to land on Shabbos. If typically, if it's just the flight came in late from another city and the weather's good and that flight's running an hour late, then the flight's going to be an hour late. You should be fine. You make the cheshbon, you'll make it with plenty of time. You'll be good. If there's weather problems and the flight's an hour late, but Derech HaTeva, it's going to continue to be delayed. It's going to not take off on time here. And if the thunderstorms in particular, so just because they're saying the flight's an hour late, if there's storms going on here or at your destination, likely that flight's going to be 2, 3, 4 hours late. That's going to maybe cut into Shabbos. And therefore, it's also for you to get on that plane. You should stay, make arrangements in the place where you're staying. Just a technical issue. When we talk about last flights, so again, if you're going from New York to Chicago, so and the last flight, let's say, would be, let's say they go every hour. Okay, you're going to land in O'Hare, and the Shkia in Chicago is about 8:15, 8:30. So you got to land in O'Hare. You certainly don't want to take a flight that lands at 7, because then just getting out of the airport, getting in the car, getting to your destination, you're cutting it extremely close. So to take off from New York on a 5:30 flight that lands at 7, especially those flights in rush hour time, are notoriously run late. A lot of air traffic. You don't want to do that. That's I would say you would never want to take a 5:30 flight into Chicago, landing at 7 o'clock. What do you want to take? Let's say a 3 o'clock flight. Okay, that's going to land at 4:30. Okay, that's a big b'diavad. But if you had to do it, then I would call that the last possible flight, that you want to take. If you have no other brera, if you have a brera, you go in the morning. If you're stuck, you have to be somewhere that morning, and you have to be in Chicago for a simcha, an einikol's bar mitzvah. You have to be there, and you have to be somewhere Friday morning. Then again, you want to land certainly 3 hours before the time, and if the flight has any delays, you certainly don't want to get on that flight. But what's interesting is that the last flight sometimes is not Friday afternoon. Number one, if you go on Eretz Yisrael, the last normal flight to take is 1 o'clock Thursday afternoon on the nonstop that gets in, to Eretz Yisrael Friday morning. Anything later than that is risky. If you're landing Friday afternoon, okay, they have levayas that take place. That would be a good shas chak. But we've all read those stories about people that got stuck and in the airport. And again, you don't want to take going after that 1 p.m. flight is not really advisable. Some flights are, the last flight out is Thursday. For example, if you're flying from Los Angeles to New York, and you're flying, let's say, the red eye Thursday night is going to be your last chance. If you're flying on Southwest has no red eyes. So really the last flight in the winter from Los Angeles to New York, viable option is Thursday afternoon at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Maybe there's a nonstop you can catch at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and that's it. That's your last chance, because at Southwest there's no flights that are red eyes, and then Friday morning the flight that leaves at 7 doesn't land till 3 o'clock. Too late to be landing at JFK or Newark at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and make it into Brooklyn. So you got to cheshbon if you're flying that direction. You're flying eastbound, you're going to lose hours, and therefore Thursday may be your last flight. If you're flying to Australia, the flights to the West Coast to Australia, even the Wednesday night flight to Australia is a late flight. It's the last flight of the week. Because if you take off Wednesday night, you're going to land Friday morning in Australia. If something goes wrong, again, you're not going to have many options. So you may want to consider flying, 14 hours ahead. So by the time you land, the 10:30 flights on Wednesday night land at 6 a.m. on Friday morning. You might want to consider going on Sunday night, Monday night, or Tuesday night, and therefore landing, well before Shabbos and not running into any problems. Okay, so those are some of the technicalities. Now let's get to some halachos. You should take with you when you're flying on Erev Shabbos or flying, as close to Shabbos in some of the flights that we mentioned, you want to take along either a box of matzahs and four rolls. And what do you have 4 rolls for? So if you have 4 rolls, you'll be able, or 4 matzahs. Someone, a mashgiach, once told me he takes pitas along because pitas pack well. They don't get crushed. They pack snug in your suitcase, and they stay, for a week or so, or 2 weeks. And you want 4 of them. Why? Because this way, if you get stuck, you'll have Kiddush Friday night, because you make Kiddush on Pas, and you'll have Lecha Mishnah by all 3 sudas. You'll have Friday night, you'll have Lecha Mishnah, you'll eat one of those rolls, or matzah, or pita, and then you'll have Lecha Mishnah Shabbos morning, you'll have Lecha Mishnah Al Shudas, and then you'll even have Malka, that last Lecha Mishnah roll that you had, Shabbos afternoon, you'll have for Lecha Mishnah. You'll have also Kiddush. Again, the halacha is you can make Kiddush on Friday night. On Pas, this is a very, very important halacha if you're stuck, because trying to find wine or grape juice is going to be virtually impossible unless you're in a Jewish community. And if you're in a Jewish community, you're not stuck. You'll be able to find somewhere to go. But if you're in a small town, a small place, you could make Kiddush on the Lecha Mishnah that you have. And agav, if a person has to scramble before Shabbos, not agav, but part of this, we're jumping around here. But if you are stuck, let's say it's an hour before Shabbos, you're stuck on the road, and you want to, ideally you should bail out. You're going to say, I got to drive 90 miles an hour to make it to my destination. Don't try it. In other words, don't do something that's potentially sakonos nefashos. Number 2 is that if you were stuck in traffic in a storm, and now the storm ended and the traffic is light, you're going to have traffic further down the road. You're never going to make it even at 90 miles an hour. Number 3 is sakonos nefashos to go 90 miles an hour. It's ridiculous. Better an hour before Shabbos. You're an hour from your destination. It would be in the middle of the night. It would take an hour to get to where you're going. You're never going to make it Friday afternoon in an hour. Bail out. Go ahead, check into a hotel, and buy food. You'll go into a supermarket. You'll buy Lecha Mishnah. You can buy some rolls that have a hechsher on them, and you'll buy beer. Those are the 2 things you need, because you'll have Pas again. You can make Kiddush Friday night, How do you make Kiddush Friday night? It's the same nusach of Kiddush that you would have on Friday night, except instead of Ber Pirah Gofen, you would have a Hametz Lechem Min Haaretz. So what you do is you cover the pas, you cover the Lechem Mishnah, you go wash, even if you're not, Yekesh Minig is always to wash before Kiddush. Here, even if you're not a Yekeh, if you're making Kiddush on pas, you're first going to wash, you make an Al Tzes Yodoyim, you then say Yom HaShishi, Savri, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Cholam, Hametz Lechem Min Haaretz, and then Asher Shabbos Sover Tzavanu, you have your hands on the Lechem Mishnah the whole time, and then at the end of the Kiddush, right, you've already made Hamaitzi, at the end you cut your, one of the rolls, and that is, you're going to be Yaitze Kiddush and Lechem Mishnah and Hamaitzi and Suda Shabbos all at one sweep by eating a Kabeh V'Yaiser of the Pas, but you have a Yaiser with a Kazayas. If there's not enough to go around, you have a few people, you give everyone a Kazayas, and that's all that you would need to do. Now, if you don't have Lechem Mishnah, if let's say all you found in the store was a loaf of bread with a hechsher, so then you would take 2 slices of bread. That's a default Lechem Mishnah. You're not really Yaitze Lechem Mishnah per se, but it's better than nothing. Even if you had cut pieces of bread, let's say you just had pieces of bread, the halach is you could still make Kiddush. You don't need Lechem Mishnah to make Kiddush. You need pas to make Kiddush. You need, of course, wine or grape juice. If you don't have wine or grape juice, any bread or matzah or bagels, lender's bagels, you get hold of any lender's bagels, get hold of anything, any hamaitzi will serve to be able to make Kiddush Friday night, and then you would make hamaitzi on that, etc. As we explained, when a person is making a Lechem Mishnah. Now the beer, you need the beer because in order to make Kiddush on Shabbos day, you cannot make Kiddush on Pas by day, but you could make a Chamar Medina. So in absence of wine or grape juice, beer is the ideal Chamar Medina. It's the Chamar Medina. People are knowing, many people are knowing the 9 days. They make Havdalah, okay, different minhagim. But those who don't want to drink wine, even b'makam mitzvah, even for Kiddush, even for Havdalah, they're knowing to make Havdalah on a beer. I have my annual Budweiser on Matzah Shabbos Chazoin. This year, not Matzah Shabbos Chazoin. This is going to be Matzah Shabbos Matzah Maseh during the 9 days. Matzah Shabbos Chazoin this year is Tisha B'Av. And that you can make Havdalah, just like you make Havdalah, you can make Kiddush by day on the Chamar Medina, and therefore, without getting, we're not going to get into the sugya of Chamar Medina per se, but beer is certainly the ideal Chamar Medina, and therefore you would make Kiddush by day, and you take your other beer, buy a second beer, or save some beer for Havdalah, and therefore you'd make Havdalah. So you take it care of. You have everything. 4 rolls and a bottle of beer. You have Kiddush, you have Havdalah, you have Suda Shabbos, you Yaitze, all the mitzvahs hayom of Suda, like you're in your house. Kechol, you don't have, and etc. If you want to be Yaitze a hot item, you would go down to the hotel, you would get some hot water. The shaila comes up, are you allowed to drink the hot water? First of all, kashrus wise, you're allowed to drink hot water that comes in a hotel. There's no problem with that hot water. We assume that it's no problem at all. The shaila is, what about on Shabbos? This is an interesting shaila. Could I drink? In other words, Friday night I want a hot tea. I want a hot coffee. Okay, tea you might run into problems because they probably didn't make tea essence. They don't have it. Tea bags are a big issue. Certainly the klishedi is also the klishlishi. Okay, many are knowing not to do it. It's a problem. Again, there's a big machlokes here, but we're going to say not to make tea in a klishlishi, but you can make a coffee. So that'll be your hot beverage. By day, the problem by day is that the guy cooked in the morning. In other words, they empty out the hot water Friday night, and now you want a coffee Shabbos morning, or you want a coffee to be yaitz to something hot, and now the shaila is, okay, kashas, you don't have a problem, but the guy heated the water on Shabbos morning. In other words, they emptied out at night, late at night, the hotel's empty, and again, we're talking about just a motel somewhere. They emptied out the water, and now they refilled the water on Shabbos morning, and now can you drink from that hot water? The answer is you could, because you go by roiv. As long as there's roiv akum in the hotel, when they filled the water, they did not have you in mind. They had the roiv visitors in the hotel. Roiv visitors in that hotel are goyim, and therefore when they filled the hot water and cooked it, it was al das. They didn't add an extra cup because of you. They filled it for all the people staying there, and therefore roiv akum, and therefore you're allowed to drink the hot water. The halacha is it would not be a problem. Now let's say, we're going to come back to the some of the malachas, but we're talking about the Suda now. let's say you ended up in the hotel, literally at the buzzer, right? You show up, the road's choked, the highway's closed, or the highway's backed up. You finally inch your way to an exit. You quickly exit, and you pull into a hotel, and it's 15 minutes before the shkia. And you have to check in. You want to put all your muksa down. You don't want to do anything. That's the ideal thing, is to avoid malacha. It's more important to avoid malacha than to have Suda Shabbos. So say, well, let me go shopping now in order to have Suda Shabbos, but you're going to do malacha, because by the time you check in, it will stop in the supermarket on the way to the hotel. But now you can do malacha. Better, and you're going to miss Ner Shabbos also. Better to go ahead and to miss Suda Shabbos and miss Neiros than to be Mechal Shabbos. So if it's 15 minutes before you exit, you see the hotel, you should, first place should be get to the hotel, check into the hotel, unload all your muktzah items, and set the lights in the hotel room and whatever it might be. And now you have not done any malacha. We'll get to the suda in a minute. Lamaisa, if a woman misses Neiros Shabbos because you were stuck on the road, the halacha is she does not have to light another candle for the rest of her life. As is well known, a famous halacha, that if a woman forgets to bench licht on Friday night, then the halacha is she has to add a ner for the rest of her life. So if she's going to light 2, she's going to light 3. If she's going to light for as many children that she has, let's say she has 5 children, so she's going to light 7, now she's going to light 8, etc. Kahena v'chahena. However, that's by if a person forgot, if a woman made a mistake, she forgot. But an oinus, right? If someone is in a makam oinus, an oinus means they couldn't help the situation, so they were stuck, right? They had no brera. A classic oinus is a woman is in a hospital. She had a baby on, let's say, erev 2-day yontif. Let's say Shavuos this year was, or this coming year, Shavuos is going to be Friday, Shabbos, next year. A woman has a baby on erev Shavuos. Now she can bench licht on with the electric lights on Thursday afternoon. Friday night, there's no eitzah. They're not going to let her light. You can't light the electricity Friday night, Friday afternoon. It's yontif. You can't turn on electricity yontif. She can't light candles. They never let her do that in the hospital. And Shachmana, right? She's stuck. So we don't make her light an extra candle. Same thing here. If you're stuck on the road, then it's makam oinus. Then the halacha is it would not be a problem. Now, b'di'evet, you could use electrical lights. Ideally, it should be incandescent bulb. So if you got into the hotel 10 minutes before the shkia, you'll find a light, and the woman will make a bracha. If you want to take along a flashlight that's incandescent, that's the more mahuda way to light on Friday night. If you're lighting on electricity, some hold it's makiv. Lamaisa, you would turn on the bulb, make a bracha. Again, that's as long as you're there before the shkia, then you would be allowed to go ahead and do that. Now, let's say you did this. You came to the hotel 15 minutes before shkia. You're in a hotel with no food. There's no food there, and now you checked in. You unloaded your muksa. It's now Shabbos, right? You got everything down, everything good. Now you have no food. So the halacha is that a amir la'akum is mutter by the Rabbanon on Shabbos, b'makam einik Shabbos. Okay, there are 2 important kulas here, and we're going to come back to them in being stuck on the road. Let's introduce the sugi of amir la'akum here and how it relates to us. So, number 1 is bein hashmashos, amir la'akum is mutter even by the eraisa. Okay, so let me jump out of the Suda for a minute. Let's say a person is stuck on the road, or a person lands at an airport in your half hour from home. You land at the airport 15 minutes before the shkia, licht benching time, 18 minutes before shkia. You work your way out of security. You come outside to the taxi stand, or you get an Uber, and now the Uber pulls up 5 minutes before shkia, or after shkia. Right, you're there, you have your luggage, and now you got to get from point A to point B, but it's Shabbos already. So what's the din? So now let's step back a minute. You're in the airport. I'm going to get to the food in a minute, but I only mentioned the bein hashmashos halacha first. You could really stay at the airport, right? In other words, just spend Shabbos in the airport. Again, the case here is where you landed before Shabbos, and now you're outside, you're ready to get home. So you really could have spent Shabbos in the airport, but you want to go home. Who wants to spend Shabbos in the airport when you could be home? So amir la'akum bein hashmashos is mutter b'makam einik Shabbos, b'makam mitzvah. What greater Einig Shabbos is there than spending Shabbos at home or at your destination? You're by your parents, you're by your children, you're by a friend, wherever your destination was, where you were planning on going. And now, Ben Hashmashas Amir Lakim, it's mutter. So if it's a half hour between the airport and your destination, it would be mutter l'chatchila to ask a guy to take you to your destination. He's doing a malacha d'oraisa, driving a car is a malacha d'oraisa, but it's mutter. Why? Why is that mutter? Because it's a shvus to shvus. We consider ben hashmashas a shvus. We consider ben hashmashas a ben hashmashas. We consider it a shvus because it's a suffix yom suffix laila, and now you're allowed to ask a guy to do a malacha d'oraisa, and therefore he could drive you home. Okay, we're assuming you're in the Tchum here. You're in a city where you're in the Tchum. LaGuardia is certainly in the Tchum in New York. Kennedy is in the Tchum to get to Brooklyn or Queens. Certainly to Queens, it's certainly in the Tchum, right? It's not a problem. But even Brooklyn certainly would not be a problem. So that Amir La'akum is going to be mutter. Now, how much time do you have here? Right? How long is Ben Hashmasha? So here, you don't have 72 minutes here. Even if you hold like Reinu Tam, that Chumrah is going to come, in this case, a Kula. Because, Shkia is at 8 o'clock, so I have till 9:12. Well, no, you don't, because you may keep Shabbos till 9:12, Matzah Shabbos. That's a Chumrah. Here you're using the Ben Hashmashas as a Kula. You're saying, well, it's only Ben Hashmashas. I want to be makel to ask a guy. So the halacha is, that is going to be, right, that's going to be a mutter because until the end of Ben Hashmashas. So Rabbi I believe has an tshuva that you have up to half hour. In other words, here you can use a half hour of Ben Hashmashas that you have. Rabbi Heinemann told me this in New York. Certainly at that latitude, you'll have certainly a half hour. Other Paiskim, Rabbi Hapfer, Rav here told me you have till 40 minutes, the Ben Hashmashas you have. So you certainly have till a half hour, maybe up until 40 minutes, you have to use that amount of Ben Hashmashas. So again, you have to calculate realistically, how long does it take to get home? If it's going to take more than that, it takes you an hour to get home, or it's rush hour in the wintertime, your plane lands at 4 o'clock, 4:30, Shkia is at 4:30, 4:45, you get out, 4:45, your normal half hour ride is not going to take a half hour. It's middle of rush hour, it's dark, it's Ben Hashmashas, no way traffic's going to take a half hour. No, so when you land earlier, it's just you have more pad time. In other words, if you landed at 3:30 and you're afraid that there's going to be traffic, okay, but you have till, if Shkia is at 4:45 and you landed at 3:30 and it's normally an hour, you'll be home before Shkia. Oh, there's traffic, you'll be home by 5:15. That's great. No, where you know that he's going to do later.
Can repeat the question, please?
Right, the question is, if the guy asked you, if you're getting in that cab, Ben Hashmashas, and you know that it's going to take him more time to get home, then that would be awesome. In other words, you land in an airport, it's 8 o'clock, your ride home in the Tchum is an hour and a half, right? That's based on traffic or whatever it might be. You're going from JFK to Williamsburg, right? JFK Williamsburg during rush hour is a good hour and a quarter. Is that right? Right? L'chaira, I'm thinking to New York right now.
Yes, yes. Well, you could take Newark to Lakewood.
Right. Newark to Lakewood, you get into Tchum issues.
Tchum problems, right?
Right. I'm talking about you're in the Tchum. You're going from Kennedy to Borough Park, right? On a Friday afternoon in the wintertime. It's 4:45. 5 and 4. Shkia is 4:30 in New York. You get out of the cab. You get into the cab at 4:30, right? Mistama, that ride's getting to Brooklyn. It's certainly to Borough Park. They do certainly more than a half hour. So l'chayr would be also to ask the guy to take you, because you're really asking the guy, listen, drive me from 4:30 to 5:30. That's what you're telling him, because you know it's an hour to Borough Park at 4:30. So even though you didn't say drive me on Shabbos, but you're asking to do something that papayil means you're asking me to drive me from 5 to 5:30, or even 5:10 to 5:30. That is seisek echavim. That's going to be yosser. You want to be home, so what you would want to do there is you call your friend in Kew Gardens. Kew Gardens is under a half hour. It's Ben Hashmashas, or show up at your friend in Kew Gardens' door, or go to a shul in Kew Gardens. It's a half hour from Kennedy, less than a half hour in Kennedy. Ben Hashmashas. That's what you're going to want to do. It will be mutter. Again, I'm talking about a case where you know where you're going. There's no sakana here. You end up in a shul in Kew Gardens. You're going to get plenty of people that are going to tell you, come to us for Shabbos, right? You're going to have no problem with that. Or you go to a friend, or you have a cousin over there, then, or a mechutin over there. Then you would have no problem and then that's how you would want to bail
was,
out.
can you ask a guy to take your luggage? Let's say you're in the
Okay, yes. So the guy, you would ask the guy to take your luggage. Certainly, ben hashmashas, that would be mutter. Now, after tzeisek chavim, this is the second cooler. We're going to come back to the food.
The guy can take it for the full hour, only for the half hour. Only for that half hour?
No, to carry your luggage would be mutter even after the half hour, because it's the rabbanon. What's after tzeisek chavim? In other words, on Shabbos. This is for the rest of Shabbos. Anytime Shabbos, 8 p.m., 8 a.m., 3 p.m. Amir la'akum is mutter by the rabbanon. That's called shvus to shvus, b'makam mitzvah, or shvus to shvus, b'makam einik Shabbos. Right? So it's very, very negay. This is the most common case of using a Shabbos guy, where you have something that relates to einik Shabbos, and you want to do a d'rabbanon. In other words, you can't ask a guy to turn on a light on Shabbos Friday night, because that's a d'oraisa. I'm talking about now after tzeisek chavim. That's a malcha d'oraisa. It's osur. To ask a guy to do a d'rabbanon, the halachas would be mutter. So you want the guy. So here's where it's important. You check into the hotel, and now you want the guy to go ahead and do your taiva, and you say, listen, I'm going to even pay you. Here's an extra $10. Do me a favor. There's a grocery store. Please buy me a loaf of bread or rolls. You tell them, make sure there's a kosher symbol on it. You describe all that. I want you to buy me some drinks. I want you to buy me some beer. I want you to buy me some cookies. I want you to buy me whatever. Figure out. I need my wife here to say what you can buy in the grocery store that's going to make emphasis, some semblance of covered Shabbos. Buy me some cans of tuna fish in the store. They'll open it up for you. Shalom Yisrael. All of the rabbanons. Amir la'akum is mutter. The same thing as if you're in a turnpike, right? If you bail out in a turnpike, more on that later. Same thing. You're stuck. You could ask the guy to carry your items into your wallet, take the money. The handling of muksa in this case can be mutter, d'rabbanon, shvus to shvus. Please buy me stuff, buy me items, or make up, I'll pay you later. And then the halacha is, it would be mutter. Amir la'akam is mutter. They can go shopping for you. They can carry your items. They can carry, that's necessary for Shabbos. The halacha is, it would be mutter. Haitzah is only d'rabbanon. We certainly only in the makam of Carmelis. You don't have a Rosh Hashanah Mir Deraisa. I'm talking about now, maybe Manhattan, you're going to have it. But this is what would be the din. Someone had a question? No. Okay, good. Fine. So the same thing is, if somehow you could make it into the Rabbanon, then even after Tzeisek Chavim, halacha is it would be mutter. Now let's talk about if your mom is stuck. What needs to be done here? So pikuach nefesh is mutter. So let's cover that for a moment. Pikuach nefesh is mutter, right? You're not mechuyev to put yourself in makom sakana. A single girl once told me that she had car trouble erev Shabbos. She pulled into a mechanic. The mechanic allegedly fixed the problem. She got back on the road. She got lost. She ended up in some project in the parking lot of a project in Newark, New Jersey. So I told her what you do. She said she spent the entire Shabbos in the car. I said, that's sakanos tefashos. I said, you had to head her to continue driving. That's certainly mutter. You had no business, spending a Shabbos in a parking lot in a project. Mamish pikuach nefesh, mamish sakanos tefashos. You drive until you reach a safe place. What's a safe place? A safe place would be a hotel. A safe place would be a rest stop on the New Jersey Turnpike. A real rest stop where you open 24 hours. There's a place to come in. Everybody knows the rest stops in the New Jersey Turnpike. I contrast that with the rest stops on the highways that are the interstate highways that are not the toll roads. Those are like the little rustic stops where they're not manned by anybody. There's a bathroom and some vending machines and picnic tables. I would venture to guess that spending Shabbos there would be pikuach nefesh, because you certainly don't know what kind of characters are coming through there 3 o'clock in the morning, especially if they sense that you're stuck. This would be a man or a woman. It would be a problem. If you got to a gas station, maybe even there, you don't know who they are, what they're like. It also would just be a problem. But if it's a large, let's say Wawa, and they let you stay in the store, and you're able to find a place that they let you stay, so that's a store with people coming and going a whole night. Again, Chacham Ena B'Roisha, you're Meshayar the situation, Sofek Nefashos L'Hokol, and anytime you're Mesupik, again, I think a rest stop on a New Jersey Turnpike is not Pikuach Nefesh. If you could make it to one of those, you would pull in, and you would want to stay there. and that's what you would do. But again, if you're on the road and it's pikuach nefesh until you reach the where a area where you feel safe, where you have where to go, you have a safe place to go. That's good. You could reach a hospital. Now that's also not so pashut now. There was a time you could, they'll let you sit in the lobby and spend Shabbos in the lobby. If you could do that, I don't know if they'll let you do that today. And therefore, you're a stranger, you don't have anyone to visit, you're not a doctor, they'll throw you out on the street. And again, you'll be in a makam of pikuach nefesh. An airport.
What if you're a parking lot in New Jersey Turnpike rest stop, which is safe? Why are you allowed to get out of the car?
So there's a covered abrius aspect. You're not going to survive the bathroom. In other words, you're going to need at some point to use the bathroom. That heter will allow you to get out. I would say in that case, you would open the door with a shinui, so the light goes on with a shinui, and you'd be able for covered abrius, you'd be allowed to go inside. Now, there was a Maisa once, and this leads to another interesting discussion. We talk about tchum. So, again, I've been using examples of JFK and LaGuardia because they're in the tchum. Somewhere like the airport in Denver, which is way out of town, would be certainly considered chutz l'tchum, and other airports are far out. And now you run into the problem of if you landed and you get in a taxi and you're going to leave the tchum, so that's also a problem. The halacha is you're not allowed to leave the tchum. That, by the way, is the main problem with landing or taking off on a plane on Shabbos. The halacha is, this halacha yadua, you're not allowed to take off on Shabbos, you're not allowed to land on Shabbos, because if you do, then you are chutz l'tchum. You're going outside the tchum. There is a din of ein tchum al me'asara, right? But that applies if you're in the air already. In other words, technically, if a person took off before Shabbos and landed after Shabbos or before Shabbos, then the pais can bring down. There's a machlokes paiskim here. I'll give you the hechetimsa, and that is, are you allowed to take off from the Far East on a Friday afternoon on a flight to Los Angeles that lands on Friday afternoon? Now, there's a truth for a Maisha that's mashma that's osir, but there are many paiskim. The Tarch Yisrael brings many paiskim who are makel for this flight. So the hechetimsa here is you take off Friday afternoon from, let's say, Hong Kong. The sun sets, and at Shabbos. And now it's Shabbos for a few hours until you cross the international date line. Again, there's not a share on the date line. There are different shitas where the date line is. Let's just make it simple. You crossed all the shitas of all the date lines, according to everybody. Certainly by the time, long before you get to LA, several hours before you've crossed the holidays, you've now gone from Shabbos afternoon to Friday afternoon. In other words, you took off Friday afternoon at 1 o'clock. The sun sets. It's now Shabbos. Now it's night. And now you crossed the date line, and now you go from Friday night to Thursday night. And now it's Shabbos. The halacha is that flight is mutter, according to many kama paiskim, Heinemann, other paiskim have told me that this is mutter. I believe Reb Shmuel in the Kavis Halachos holds it's osir. Chalekes paiskim here. So let's say you're makel to do this. There's no tchum problem because your malamei asar is certainly over water. It's even better. Not to get into the pratim here. Certainly over water, it's better. And now you don't have a problem because you took off Erev Shabbos, you landed on Erev Shabbos, and according to the place where makel over the water, you don't have a problem. Obviously, if you use the bathroom there, you don't want to latch the door closed because when it's Shabbos, because then you're doing a ma'aseh, you're doing a malacha. But if you took off, let's say you're on a plane, you took that flight from Chicago to JFK, and you were planning getting there with plenty of time, 2 hours before Shabbos. They sat on tarmac. Storms came in. They're sitting on the tarmac. You have no way off that plane. You are stuck. And that plane takes off, lands. You see the shkia on the plane, and you had no brera. What are you supposed to do? You got on the plane thinking you're going to land Erev Shabbos, and now it's Shabbos. You're allowed to. So now you run into a tchum problem. Because if you land on Shabbos, you're not allowed to leave the tchum. So now what do you do? Okay, so from the plane to the building, you have to stay on the plane. That's not practical. If you insist on staying on the plane, you're going to end up off the plane in a jail cell somewhere for refusing to get off a plane. So that's certainly not an option. So you're allowed to get off the plane, and now you're in the airport. The halacha is, there's an important halacha for our discussion. if a person leaves the tchum, but even ba'inus, even beheter, I kept certain hechitimsas, but for purpose of our discussion, all the cases here are either are ba'inus. We're not planning on leaving the tchum. If you leave the tchum, the halacha is you only have dalat amas. Okay, so that creates a problem. What is dalat amas? Dalat amas is I have each direction 4 amas. That's about, according to Ramosha, it's 7 feet and 1 inch. That's my entire distance that I could walk. You get the square off the corners, so you get the hypotenuse to the corner, so you get a little bit more. More than you get 5 point something amas going to the corner. So you have a few extra feet going in the corner directions. Okay, yashakayach. That's not going to get you very far. So what are you supposed to do? So number one, a building is dalat amas. So let's talk about a hechitimsa that happened, where there was a ma'is shahaya, where there was storms a number of years ago in Baltimore, Washington region, and many people from Baltimore work in Washington, and all the trains. Many people commute by train. The traffic was snarled. Many people commute by train. All they're called the MARC trains. The MARC trains were not running. So what they should have done is they should have gone to a neighborhood in Washington, to Georgetown or to Silver Spring and Potomac, somewhere a little further, but they could have certainly made it to Georgetown, if not Silver Spring, for Shabbos. That's really what should have happened. There was one train that was still scheduled at 6:30 on an Amtrak train, regular Amtrak that runs from Washington to New York, makes a stop in Baltimore. That train was running at 6:30, takes an hour. They were getting at 7:30, Shkias 8:30, plenty of time. The mistake was, again, when there's storms and all the other trains aren't running, you can be guaranteed that these trains are going to be delayed. Kachavi, the 6:30 train scheduled to arrive at 7:30 did not arrive till Penn Station, Baltimore, until 9 p.m. 9 p.m. Shabbos already. It was already, even if Shkia was 8:40, there was no way they could get home, Banish Mashas. Now, the train station in Baltimore closes in the middle of the night. It was the last train comes in at whatever it is, 1 a.m., and they close from 1 to 4. So you're going to end up on the street, right? Downtown Baltimore, certainly Pekuach Nefesh. So they were allowed to come home. So they were able to get taxis that took them home. Now, let's forget about the Erev for 1 minute. I'll get to that in a second. But without the Erev, so the taxi dropped them off in front of their house. Technically, they only had dalat amas, right? Once really they were in a safe place, they had dalat amas. To get out of the taxi, they have dalat amas. But coming up, they have to use the bathroom, so they're going to come into the house. Once they're home, they can now spend the entire Shabbos in their house. That's where they would stay. Now, there's a bonus here, and that is, if you have an Erev, we consider the entire Erev area as dalat amas. So in Baltimore, there's an Erev. So that means basically, okay, you're restricted from walking out of the Erev even without carrying. That everybody can live with. I don't remember the last time I ever walked out of the Baltimore Erev area. I'm saying without carrying, right? How often do you leave the Erev? So if you stay in the Erev, that is considered as dalat amas, and now you are good to go. So basically, those people that got home at 9:30 at night, they were able to make kiddush, they had a suit. Obviously, they had already missed Friday night davening, daven b'chidus, but Shabbos morning they were able to go regular to shul and treat the Shabbos regular because they were in the Erev. Now, if a person's not knowing to use the Erev, I always wondered, in this case, they may want to make an exception because Bishlam, in the halacha of carrying, they don't want to carry. But here, like the din of Tchum, maybe they would say they're going to use the Erev in this case. Okay, this also happened with people who ended up in that storm, Shushan Purim, Friday Shushan Purim. There were people that sent out drivers and so on to bring people back from, they were stuck in, as they say, bars and taverns and so on, and to really save them from being stuck on the street somewhere in some small town, they were able to come back into town. It was the same thing. They had dalat amas, but again, if they came into the Erev, then the halacha is, it was not a problem. Now, let's talk about after the fact. Now you made it home. What's the deal with Sudas Shabbos? So the halacha is Sudas Shabbos. We eat 3 Sudas every Shabbos, and we make Kiddush Friday night and Shabbos day. Let's say a person, for whatever reason, you were unable to make it home until Shabbos morning. That was Eichi Timsa. You were stuck somewhere, and you walked home, and you come home, and it's Shabbos morning, or you ended up in a place without a Suda, and now you got a Suda. By the way, there's another important din of Tchum here, and that is that things that come illegally out from outside the tchum may be also to eat. That's the mail, right? The shaila is, could you get a magazine in the mail on Shabbos morning, a magazine that you're allowed to read on Shabbos, and now, right, Ahmadiyya comes, the Ated comes on Shabbos morning. Are you allowed to read it? So you have to don. There's several issues here. The guy didn't do malacha for you, and then it come from outside the tchum. By the Maisa with the Perryville, there were some elderly people there, and there was right before Shabbos, shilas were asked. A lot of the mitzvahs weren't known. Hatzalah had a heter to bring food to this hotel in Perryville. They got the guy that works for Hatzalah to bring them food. Perryville, again, is an hour outside of Baltimore, 45 minutes, certainly outside the Tchum. But the understanding at the time where people were stuck with nothing to eat, including elderly people and children. Someone told me that they survived on the nash, the Purim nash that their kids had taken with them in the car. That's what they lived on. But there was a fear that you had elderly people and children without food. So there's a sickle, they're going to go without food. They're going to get nervous and tense, especially elderly people. It was a heter for them to get the food. The shiloh was, could other people eat that food? A neighborhood that put all their food together. L'chayra, when food comes from outside the tchum, it was not so pashut. There may have been even also for a regular person to eat the food that came b'chutz l'tchum, because what's the heter? You had, in the hotel, whatever they had there, you could survive on some candy bars over Shabbos and a drink. Again, it's not kishmak, but taking something from outside the tchum that came illegally may indeed be awesome. But let's say you were able to locate food, or you got someone to go, the hotel, you asked them to go shopping for you. As we said earlier, they can't go shopping for you until Shabbos morning when there's a second person there, or that's when you get food. So the halacha is you can make kiddush Shabbos morning. You just, once it's the morning, you have all night to say kiddush. Till Alayis HaShachar, certainly till a half hour before Alayis HaShachar, you could eat kiddush and make kiddush and eat a suda. Within a half hour before Alayis HaShachar, you'd be limited in what you could eat. But pashas, you can make kiddush and eat a limited amount. And then once Alayis HaShachar comes, you can't make kiddush or eat anymore because it's already Alayis HaShachar, you have to daven. Once you've davened, you make kiddush on Shabbos morning, you would make only the long kiddush. You don't have to make double kiddush. You don't say Vayechulu. Vayechulu was only Friday night. You would start with Savri, Bari Piragafen, or Hamaitzi, and then Ashek Shabbos Saranu. The halacha is you could make kiddush all day Shabbos, certainly until Shkia. The Shemur has a shaila after Shkia, whether or not you'd say kiddush. Pas you'd say without Shem Malchus because it's something to our bonus. After Ben Ishmash, I'm talking about now going into Matzah Shabbos, but that's a rare case. We're talking about now where you're eating a Suda Shabbos morning, Shabbos afternoon with food, rolls that you got or bread that you got, and now and you got beer. You want to make, that's an interesting case. L'chayra, if it's Shabbos morning, you would make the Friday night kiddush on Pas and make a hamaitzi and the regular lengthy kiddush, and you would not need to make a vayechulu in that case on the beer because already you've been yaitze already. It's nicker. The problem with Pas by day is it's not nicker. By the way, if that's all you have, you could be yaitze kiddush by day. If there's nothing else, you only have bread by day, you could be yaitze kiddush. If you made kiddush Friday night and now it's Shabbos day, but the Evid you can make on bread and lack of anything else. And you'd make just hamaitzi. It's really just to say alkain, a pasuk, and hamaitzi, and that's what you would have. If you had beer and you have pay rice, so then that would become your suda, your de facto suda, because you have nothing else, and you would make that your suda Shabbos in lack of anything else. But again, back to this case, you got your suda Shabbos morning, you can make kiddush Shabbos morning, no problem. You'd still be chayav in 3 sudas. In other words, Shabbos you'd make kiddush, you'd make lachamishna, hamaitzi, suda number 1. Okay, that's your Friday night suda that you ate Shabbos morning. Shabbos afternoon, let's say early afternoon, you would eat a second suda, or late Shabbos morning. And your third suda, shal shudas, you eat before shkia like you do regular. In other words, the chiyuv of 3 sudas, halacha is you can even eat 3 sudas, even all 3 of them being during the day. Halacha is where tefillah Shabbos, let's say, one important note, if you're stuck Erev Shabbos, and it's a behala, try to chap in mincha. Now, if it's 15 minutes before shkia and you're trying to avoid doing malacha and you're desperately trying to get to a hotel, you're not going to do mincha then. But if you realize you're going to have problems, maybe a couple hours before, and you're on a plane, before it gets tumultuous, try to chap mincha. Or as soon as shkia comes and now you can't do malacha anymore, daven mincha then. But you can daven mincha after shkia, and then you would want it. But just keep the frame of mind of davening mincha. I tell. If a husband his wife is in labor Friday afternoon, I tell him you're going to be watching the clock as Shkia approaches and the labor continues, and now you want to see what baby born Menashmashas. I heard the previous year was on Bris Milah on Shabbos. You're not going to want to be davening mincha right before the Shkia, so chaperai mincha earlier. If you miss Mariv, you were so Bahala, you forgot that Mariv, of course you would daven, or you missed mincha. You forgot mincha in the Bahala, the halachas you would daven Mariv twice, 2 Friday night Shemon Esreis. The first Shemon Esrei would be Mariv of Shabbos. The second Shemon Esrei would be Mariv of Shabbos, B'Teres Tashlumin, to compensate for the mincha that a person missed. Now, what happens if you miss Kriyas HaTorah? If you miss Kriyas HaTorah, you were stuck somewhere. That was the problem in this Perryville days in. The one thing they did not have was a Sefer Torah. They were attempting to get a Sefer Torah from maybe somewhere else. That was certainly also to bring a Sefer Torah. There's no head to bring something from Chutz L'Tchum, even for the mitzvah of Kriyas HaTorah. So the halacha is, if you had if one person missed Kriyas HaTorah, he missed Kriyas HaTorah. So that's it. He laying from a chumash without brachas, and if he wants, laying from the Navi, as well. If he has access to a chumash with haftarah, b'tayv manoim, certainly no brachas. 5 people were stuck. If you have a minyan of people who were stuck, l'chayra, that means 6 people, because 6 people arrive of a minyan. That forms a tzibur. If the following Shabbos you have those 6 people that together come, you have 6 people from a shul or 6 people b'chabura are together. And they say we missed last week's parsha. We were stuck parshas Kairach, and we had no minyan. The halacha is you could lane last week's parsha. If you have 6, and obviously they need 4 more people who join them to form the minyan, then for those 6 people, that's considered a minyan with 4 people who are willing to hear parsha Shavua again. The halacha is they would lane last week's parsha. They would lane Kairach. Kayin would be called up. They would lane Kairach all the way through Kayin of Chukas. And then they would lay in the regular aliyahs like normal. So that's the din if Kriyas HaTorah was missed. So those are some of the dinim of the malachas, what's allowed to be done. Again, we reiterate, if a person prepares properly, then they won't run into these problems. Ideally, you don't travel Erev Shabbos, you won't run into these problems. And you deal with it as it happens. Baruch Hashem, for cell phones, you can be in touch with Meir HaRav as you're traveling to know in advance. Don't wait for 5 minutes before Shkia, but rather a couple hours before, find out your options and know what to do in the various circumstances.
Okay, so a couple of questions here. Everybody, as Rav said, is a personal shayla. So the hardest one I got, so a young man calls me from Detroit. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Can he take off? I told him no. And he took off anyway. He had 2 children. And he needed to get to Passaic, New Jersey. Bekitzer, he ends up in Kennedy in the terminal after Shabbos with a child 4 and a child 1. What should he do? Right.
Okay. So what l'chayra, and the halacha is, it's a good question. The halacha is a chayla. Amir Lakim is mutter by a chayla also. That's important. In other words, I was talking now about a healthy person in good shape. So Amir La'akum is also on Shabbos. One of the other Hatayrim on Shabbos, we're talking about now after Tzeitzke Chavim, Amir La'akum is mutter b'makayim chayla. So number one, if you have a person who's ill, they need medications, they need certain, they have to get to a house for just pashut. If they're a whole Shabbos in an airport, they're pashut going to get sick from it. Even your average healthy person might get sick from a Shabbos, and they're not going to sleep. It's not geschmack. You feel sick. It's not geschmack. But a regular healthy person should be able to survive at 25 hours in an airport. It happens. People are stuck in a blizzard. They are stuck 25 hours in a hotel on a regular weekday. But if you have a 1-year-old child and it's too difficult and too complicated, and you consider that situation like a chayla, then it would be mutter. Amir La'akum would be mutter. If you cannot handle the situation, you don't have the wherewithal, the provisions that you're given in a airport with a 1-year-old child, or even a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old child, then Amir La'akum would be mutter, or an elderly person, or a person who's ill, or a person who's not feeling well, and it's going to go from a mechush to a chayla, then it's mutter. I give an example of this, is a woman who goes into labor. They go to the hospital, and they say, you're not in labor, go home. So they could have a taxi, have the hospital call a taxi and take her home. Let her sit in the lounge. So a woman who's in the end of her 9th month, who's about to have a baby, to be sitting in a hospital, in a lounge, in a chair, talk about now in the waiting room, she's a chayla. She's klar chayla. So it's mutter, Amir La'akum is mutter. The guy could take you to your home. You can't drive home because you can't do this deraisa. But if you get a taxi, take it. So that's what I would say in that case. So part of my discussion here with dealing with this is pikuach nefesh will sometimes be if you're dealing with little kids. And I know a balabas, that balabas that ended up in that winter after the blizzard. He ended up in a hotel for Shabbos, no food, no nothing. He didn't know any halachas. I spoke to him earlier to talk about tchum. He didn't know any halachas. He didn't buy anything. He didn't know Amir Lachem's mutter. He literally starved the whole Shabbos. He couldn't daven. He didn't know tefillas palpeh. He literally sat in a hotel room and ran to the Chal Shabbos. Had he been with other people, kids, adults, elderly people, would have been mutter for him to get home. But he was a healthy adult.
I can't hear you. Speak loud.
Can't hear me anymore?
Yeah, the question is that whether a person is a peshay, does that change he left late? Does that change any of these halachas?
If a person is a pesheya, you hear me?
Tashlumim and Shabbos, and for tefillah, but otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Again, it's Shabbos. In other words, the guy's a pesheya. So what? In other words, it's same halachas. You can't do deraisas. Amir Lachem is mutter. All that's going to be mutter.
Okay.
What we said, whatever we said, Amir Lachem, Makam Rabbanon, etc., is going to be mutter.
Okay. Yeshikayach, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
The number of problems are infinite. So, bottom line is we should daven that Kedusha Shabbos protect us from doing any of these mistakes. Thank you very much.
Amen. Thank you very much.
Okay, Rabbi say tonight will 8:45. There'll be a chazar. It'll be our Monday evening chabura. We'll see everybody tomorrow morning.